Eric Martin here, Lewis Clark State College, and the mission of today's video is to get you all set up kind of for the first exam, which is coming up. This video I'm going to try to cover material both for History 101 and for History 102 because the format of the exam is exactly the same. So a couple of different, you're dealing with different chapters, but everything applies. And keep that in mind, right, when it's time to sign up for courses. If you do okay in one of them, you should be able to do okay in the other. All right, so here's the deal with the exams. The exams are going to be roughly 50 questions, multiple guess, matching, chronological order. I think we've done enough writing in the discussion board, so there's not any writing questions on the exams themselves. There's no need for a proctor with the exams. However, trade-off on that means that the exams are on a timer. The exams are on a 1-hour timer. And you get one chance to take the exam. You have to finish the exam during that time. So make sure when you sit down to take the exam, you have 1 hour in which you're not going to be disturbed. Don't wait until the last minute to take the exam and then have something happen and then come contact me. All right, y'all, take care of this early. The window's long. Find a time before the last minute so you can use the last minute if you have to, but you don't really want to. Okay. Also, as far as the exam goes, there's a glitch in some of the questions, particularly the matching questions. And Blackboard, every semester they tell me it's fixed, and every semester it's not. And so if your grade is significantly lower than what you think it ought to be, don't panic. Just send me an email, and once everyone has taken the exam, I'll go in there and I'll grade them by hand. The part where the glitch is. I know where it's at. But anyway, don't get too excited over a lower grade than you think you have. Okay, so now let's talk about some other things as far as the exams go. There's not a study guide for the exams, and that's on purpose. All right, that's on purpose. The discussion boards are supposed to be your study guide. Y'all are supposed to be discussing the main material in those postings because the main purpose, the main direction of the questions that I ask you on the exam, in a very real way, is to get a sense about whether you've been reading, how close you've been reading, and whether you've been paying attention in class. I try not to, I'm not into tricky questions, but the questions that I have tried to put together are questions that if you did the reading in a serious way, you ought to be able to get them. And if you didn't do the reading, you shouldn't be able to get them. It's kind of like that, right? So anyway, that's the idea behind the exams. We've got our discussion boards to get sort of a more in-depth understanding about some things, and y'all's opportunity to go through material you did not understand because it's going to be on the exam. And if y'all take advantage of that, you take advantage of it. If you don't, it's all good. Anyway, History 101. The exam is going to cover the videos only from Bridging World History, Units 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. It's going to cover the chapters from Worlds of History, Chapter 1, 2, and 3. It's going to cover those websites I asked you to check out to some degree. The Carl Sagan piece, the Becoming Human piece, the caves. You don't feel like you have to go through every single video on the Becoming Human piece, right? For History 102, the exam is going to cover the videos only from Bridging World History, Units 1, 2, 14, 15, 16, and 18. It's going to cover the documents in Worlds of History, Chapters 15, 16, and 19. So for both classes, it is covering what we've been covering in the discussion boards. That should not be a big, surprise. Pay attention, read the material from Traditions and Encounters. The materials in Traditions and Encounters will help you put the stuff in Worlds of History into a better context. I'm not going to surprise you, probably. I'm not going to surprise you with something out of Traditions and Encounters that was not in either Worlds of History or Bridging World History. But that material in Traditions and Encounters will help you study for this. I assume at this point you have a good set of notes for each of those videos. Surely you weren't just watching the videos like you were watching TV. Surely you understood that those videos were taking the place of class lectures and that you would be held accountable for that information and that you would need to have key concepts, key terms, key dates, key ideas, key people written down in a manner in which you could quickly look back and study for an exam. So go through and take a look at your notes. Also, take a look at your notes for each of the documents you have from Worlds of History. Once again, surely you didn't just read those documents like you were, reading Harry Potter before you go to bed. Surely you had your pen out, you got good notes on each of those documents, whether those notes are written up in the book or whether those notes are written up on a piece of paper. You got a sense about who the authors were, why they were writing the documents, what these documents were intended to do, what they tell us historically. You got a sense about what's going on in each one. You took very careful notes because you took it for granted that just because nobody even mentioned the document in the discussion boards doesn't mean that the professor wasn't going to ask you specifically about that document on the exam to see if you read it. All right? So y'all look at your notes. Pay careful attention to your notes. It is the discussion boards, more or less, the ones that are closed are closed. But if y'all want to go back and revisit that material, be my guest. Y'all want to go back and add to that material, be my guest. Y'all want to go back and talk about it with each other. What'd you get for this? I didn't understand this document, and talk about go back and talk about some of the documents you didn't get. That seems like a totally reasonable way to approach this. So, hopefully, by this point in the semester, you've got maybe a few dozen pages of notes, a couple of pages on each video, a couple of pages for each week, not for each document, but for each week, maybe for each document, doubt it. And you got lots of material there to work with and start culling through and just reminding yourself what's important. So if, and this is my hope, right? If you've been engaged in the class, if you've been reading what you were asked to read and viewing the videos you were asked to view diligently, paying attention, good notes. If you've been showing up to the discussion boards on time and you've been putting up reasonable discussion postings focused on the documents, and you've been engaged, and if you've been engaged on weeks you didn't have to be engaged, What I'm hoping is that basically all you have to do at this point is review your notes, kind of knock a little bit of the dust off. You should be good for this exam. I hope so. Anyway, y'all have questions about any of this? You know the drill. Call me at the office. Drop by during my office hours. Email me. I'm happy to hear from you. I really appreciate those students who have dropped by just to introduce themselves to me. I have no idea, right, who's on the other side of this video. It's kind of cool to meet the people who come by and just say, hey, I'm in your online class. It helps give me a face for all this. So, having said that, carry forth, enjoy your historical studies, and we'll see you next time.